I'm Catrin, and I'm the author of the play. In terms of the things people need to know, by day I'm a law lecturer, so there's a sort of day and night thing going on here.
Okay, so you originally wrote this play back in 2012. How's the development process been like for you?
Fits and starts, in a way. I can't say it's been an easy process. It started in autumn of 2011 when I was part of the Spread the Word project with Sherman Cymru. So I started off writing it as short scenes, not in any particular order, and then there was the read-through of that in March or April 2012, which was when it was about half an hour, and then between April and summer of 2012, that's when it really developed into a full play. Developed again when we did the pilot version, and it was tested by the actors and by the director, and then it was revised again after the performance in 2012, taking on board some of the things that didn't work so well in that version. So it has been a process of kind of coming back to it over a prolonged period of time.
Okay. What does it feel like watching actors read words that you've written?
Very difficult in the rehearsal, because there's that feeling of seeing the gaps in a way, and thinking that it sort of sounds like people reading words to some extent, but seeing it in performance is absolutely brilliant, because once it's all come to life and there's the lighting and the costumes, the words that I've written seem to resonate a lot more. So it is quite a painful process for the author in many ways, because you're sort of hearing, in a way, your own voice in other people's words, or in other people's way of speaking, and it's sort of a bit like listening to a tape recording of yourself, and you think, oh no, do I really sound like that?
So, what do you think the play's about?
Different people give you different answers to that. I think some people will say, well, it's about computer science and it's about maths, and some people will dislike it because of that. I think, looking at it from a lawyer's perspective, that it's about law. It's about how law changes over time, and how legal rules might be completely different to social rules, and that they're sometimes out of kilter. So looking at it from a lawyer's perspective, I think there's a lot of that theme of injustice and people being punished by harsh rules, or rules that we would now regard as not being acceptable. But I think there's also a theme of loneliness and friendship and love in it as well, that I think will resonate with many more people. That it's about someone who loses perhaps their closest friend when they were very young, and perhaps the only person who really understood them, and for that person to die. There's that sense of loneliness and bewilderment in the world.
But there are jokes in it. It's not entirely a...
Oh yes, I think there is a lot of warmth and a lot of humour in it, because Alan Turing was a very warm person. There's a sort of idea of someone being a genius and therefore not having many friends, and I think that's not true. That there were people who were very fond of him. There's humour comes through in his academic work. He talks about people being surprised by machines and saying, well, yes, the machine's frequently surprising by their behaviour because he hasn't done the calculations correctly. And there's the feeling of somebody who sort of realises, oops, it blew up kind of thing, in quite a self-deprecating, quite touching and amusing way. So, yes, it is a very humorous piece at many points as well.
Okay, and why do you think it's important that people come to see the play?
I think it's important because Alan Turing's work is very important. Alan Turing did a lot of work that was important at the time, but a lot of work that people dismissed at the time and are only now realising, oh my gosh, that was really pioneering. So his work on artificial intelligence that we're only really now beginning to understand, his work on how patterns work in biology is vitally important and vitally interesting now, but wasn't given the credit at the time. So I think it's important from the viewpoint of knowledge and from the viewpoint of scientific discovery. But I think it's also important from the viewpoint of people who are the victims of prejudice and the victims of society's narrow-mindedness, and who don't navigate the world successfully, and how we treat those. So I think it's got a lot of resonances in terms of people's experiences today as well.